A successful and expensive marketing campaign. I've been finding out more from the digital marketing and tech expert Dan Sodergren.
We talk about guerrilla marketing rather than just social media marketing. Guerrilla marketing is the ability to use psychology and clever stuff around things like social media and create a PR hype, as well as just using the brand. You've got to remember, they spent more on marketing than they actually spent on the movie. They actually spent £150 million on their marketing campaign, £145 million, should I say, on the movie itself. So it's not just their social media they did well. They spent an awful lot of money to make sure that everybody knew this was coming.
And what worked then, do you think? Why has it been so successful? Obviously, there's the finances behind it, but what was the clever stuff, do you think?
Well, this is it. This is where guerrilla marketing comes in. So they were really clever with the psychology. You've got to remember, of course, Barbie's a massive name, a brand name anyway. But of course, it's synonymous with that particular pink, which they pushed massively on social media. So pink sunsets suddenly became Barbie sunsets. Pink lakes became Barbie things. So they were very, very clever in what they did on Instagram and did in other places because they knew their target market so very well. They also did loads of other clever guerrilla things you might have seen, like they turned a whole Airbnb, a whole kind of hotel in pink and actually mocked up the whole plastic style of the whole thing. They did pink cars everywhere and had giant billboards that were really open to using technology. So they had 3D things that are going around everywhere. So everyone seemed to be talking about it. But I think the biggest thing they did really cleverly were the partnerships. So they linked in with people like Burger King, Airbnb, as we mentioned, but lots of other kind of slightly more random ones in a very kind of self-aware and tongue-in-cheek way. Now, it's that mixing of what we knew, the Barbie brand, with new stuff that made it so social media friendly. You know, the Oppenheimer thing happening at the same time, it then became Barbieheimer, or whatever, however you'd say that. And that became a massive meme sensation. So I think that's what they did cleverly, was linking the partnerships together and knowing tongue-in-cheek that not everyone would love what they were about, and then being quite, very proud of the fact and very open with it as well.
And you mentioned, things like the colours work, the soundtracks. Is it the case that it works for some films and not so much for others, this social media marketing or guerrilla marketing?
Well, I think so, yeah. I think you have to have a film which has, especially when it's nostalgia like Barbie's was, I mean, that's linked into nostalgia in a certain age set, so we say, and certainly a very particular target demographic. I don't think you could do the same with every movie because, of course, they don't always have that emotional connection. Barbie's already known about. So, the other thing that I'd say that they did, which I thought was very clever, was linking it together with Oppenheimer, which was the exact opposite, and playing on that whole, well, if you're not going to watch that film, watch ours. Now, bizarrely enough, Star Wars did this. Well, actually, Jaws and Star Wars brought out at the same time. Depending how old you are, you might know those movies. They were brought out the same weekend, and they did the same thing. So it's a classic PR stunt, almost as old as the hills.
And when did social media become and digital plans become such an integral and almost a no-brainer or non-negotiable part of marketing a movie, Dan?
Well, I mean, I've been teaching this stuff, maybe 10 years, 15 years. So I've always been saying to small businesses that it's something they should be doing because you get a huge amount of, it's almost a doctrinization of mass media. Social media gives you a chance to play with the bigger things in the world. Now, as soon as the large companies started to realize the power of this, which maybe a decade ago, all of a sudden it became the best way of doing it. But we've got to remember again, they did spend an awful lot of money on paid advertising through social media as well. It wasn't just they did some clever stuff and therefore it became a success. They put a lot of cash behind it. But we can't also, let's not be rude to them. They did a fantastic campaign throughout a variety of different things. I would imagine that lots and lots of people will be looking at this and thinking, can we do the same for our own movie? I don't think it's going to be that easy, but let's see if they can. And
it's eye-watering, the amount of money that's been spent on movie marketing, isn't it? Absolutely eye-watering.
It is, to say, it's a larger budget than the actual films themselves, and that's pretty rare, so it's normally that you wouldn't spend so much money on it. But of course, it's not just the movie, of course. They're trying to push this brand back into our consciousness, and I think they've most probably done that. Let's see in the next generation, though, how many people really do play and buy Barbie things, rather without being rather ironic about it. I'm more of a Team Cindy person myself, but that's a different thing entirely.
That's a whole different interview, isn't it, Dan?
It is indeed.
That's digital and marketing tech expert Dan Sodergren.